against the law to look this damn good. Cause baby, I feel real good and I wish I would. It's gotta be against the law to look this damn good. Everybody watch out. Watch out now. I'm ready for a good time, and I came to groove. The whole band's here, and we came to move. Got a fresh haircut and 2 new shoes. We're here all night like we got nothing to lose. Coming out the jacket, cause we're turning up the heat.
We're coming out to get it, cause we're turning up the heat. Hey, what's going on, my friends?
Hey, Greener.
How you doing, Dion?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show, guys.
Good. Hey, listen, it's our pleasure. I've been looking forward to this since we organized, since we confirmed that you'd be on this show, and we're very excited to have you on. And Marcus, how are you doing, my son?
Oh, I'm doing awesome. I'm excited every time.
Yeah. What's been going on? Before I introduce you, Dion, I just want to have a little chat with Marcus here and find out what's going on with this week. You know that we have a bromance, me and Marcus, right?
How do I get more involved in this and become a part of this?
You have to earn it. You have to earn it.
Well,
really.
you got to put me through the ropes, man.
This is the first step. It's like 12 steps, you know, that when you go for rehab, it's like 12 steps.
So do I get some action items after this to kind of earn my way through?
You get plenty of we get plenty of action, don't we, Marcus?
Listen, Greener's the tougher sell. I'm easy.
Marcus, I talk to Marcus every day. Marcus was a player for me, Dion.
Wow.
And
awesome.
I allowed him to be my assistant, to be under the fountain of knowledge that poured over him throughout his early days.
And he's still stuck around.
You would see him after practice. I could see him. So I'd be on the sidelines coaching, right? He'd be like 20 yards away from me. This is his routine every day. And then every day he would slowly kind of like move towards me so he could be drenched in the knowledge of Coach Green.
It's all of our dreams, right?
He'd bring 5 or 6 towels with him to practice, man. He was drenched. Marcus, what's going on in your life this week?
This was good. Like I said, I'm still working on the team right now, getting visas approved. We trained. It's crazy because like Monday was 32 degrees, so we trained on 5 days this week. It was good. Just trying to get fitness back in the boys, and that's really where my focus is right now, Greener. It's all about trying to get ready for the season on April 10th.
Dion, if you didn't know, Marcus coaches a top college team in the U.S., probably the best community college team in America. He is, listen to this, 3 times National Coach of the Year, won 3 championships. Big time. It's like you winning Formula One or NASCAR like 3 times, being on the #1 podium.
I've got my notepad here, so I'm ready to do some learning on the show.
Yeah, listen, I'm the worst driver, though. I can barely drive my car.
We'll trade some notes here.
I got that award. Listen to this. You know how bad you've been in the minibus when I drive, Marcus. You know, I've got a reputation as Stevie Wonder drives better than me. I'm telling you right now, And so I'm going on tour this summer and I'm renting an RV. So that's going to be an experience, man.
So we need to hit
we're hitting the road.
We need to hit the racetrack first for some coaching, and then you'll be ready to go.
I was down in Daytona last year, was it?
Yeah.
Was it Daytona?
Yeah. You were with Greener. That was national championship.
Yeah, that's right. When I went to see you down in the Nationals. Yeah. And did you go to the track? I went to the track.
Of course.
And I guess you can pay money to go and drive it around it.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a sport that nobody knows anything about, but it's more accessible than you would ever imagine. For like a couple $100, a local track, like up there in Connecticut, you guys have Lime Rock. Once it gets a little bit warmer, there's tons of organizations that you could pay a few $100, take your streetcar out, and go drive. There's no speed limits. You're attacking. You're pushing the car. You're finding the limit, and you're having a good time.
Greener, you know Mike Herzen, your old goalkeeper.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story about Mike. Right, Mike was a goalkeeper at college. Played for me. Great guy, super guy. I love him. He's tremendous. But when he was a freshman, him and his parents come to me and said, "Coach, I don't think we'll be able to play." I says, "Why not?" He says, "We need a scholarship money. We're broke. We're broke." I said, "Okay." So I went to my boss. I got some more money. Give him scholarship money to play for me. A week later, he doesn't show up for practice. I'm like, this one day he doesn't show up. I says, "Mike, what's wrong?" Next day, he says, "Where the hell were you? You didn't even show up for practice." He says, Coach, I was at BMW driving lessons yesterday.
Got his priorities right.
I says, you tell me you had no money last week and you have BMW driving lessons? But he was fanatical about it, wasn't he, Marcus?
Yeah.
He still is. I follow him on Facebook. He's still doing that stuff. Good for him, man. I love him. He's a great guy, super guy. What else is going on, Marcus?
Listen.
Tell us. What about your course? How's that going?
Course is doing good. I'm making updates almost daily to the course. New videos, adding all kinds of stuff. So it's fully running right now. It's on Kajabi, which is an amazing platform to put your courses on, and it's been really well received so far. So that always gets a lot of my attention every week.
It's a great product. It really is. And for coaches out there, for the cognitive brain, thinking about soccer, about the mental side more than anything else, it's a whole different dimension that Marcus goes into. The conversations we have at night are absolutely great. He puts me to sleep after about 10 seconds.
Greener, enough about me. What did you do this week?
What did I do this week? Let me tell you what I did this week. Well, first of all, before I answer that question, right, I want to ask you a question. And I'm going to ask Dion a question. Dion, if you were the co-host on our show, right? Mm-hmm. Who would you have on the show? Who would be your number one guest? If you could pick anybody on this planet, who would you want on the Soccer Coach TV soccer talk show?
That is a hard question.
Could be anybody.
Anybody. Give me a minute to think about this a little bit. There's another coach that we work with that
doesn't have to be a coach. It could
but he is fascinating. So he's worked with some of the top performance psychologists from the military side, Air Force side, and the stuff that he talks about from performance psychology, which is a big passion of mine. He's a natural talker. He's engaging. His name's Ken Hill. He races motorcycles. He went professional at 35, raced for 10 years, and just a fascinating person. So he's like, nobody knows of him, right? He's not someone famous, but just a really, really cool person. So I would probably go with him.
They do now. He's probably famous now after what.
There we go.
Yeah.
Marcus?
What's going on now? Yeah, for me, this is an interesting one. I would pick my grandfather because he was such an interesting guy. He fought in World War II, had amazing stories, but unfortunately, I lost him at a young age, so didn't really have enough time to really get in depth inside his head to see what he knew. So I'd love, to have him.
My choices would probably be, obviously, anybody who I loved and passed on. Apart from them, it would be probably Joe Rogan. You watch Joe Rogan?
Of course.
Absolutely phenomenal. I tell you why I like him, though. He's so diverse. He's not just one lane, He can talk about anything. UFOs. I'm a big UFO guy. Did you know that about me?
I didn't know.
It's obvious.
That's my channel. That's my channel. UFO channel, Ancient Aliens. Have you ever seen that show?
No.
It's huge. Ancient Aliens. The big thing is they have these things called have you heard of these, Dion? The people called Ancient Alien Theorists.
Like they believe that the aliens built the pyramids and stuff like that?
Now, the problem I did not know that was a career option when I was in high school.
I would love to have known where you would be in the world right now.
The counselor's asking you, what do you want to be? I was saying, I want to be a football player. I should have said, no, I want to be an ancient alien theorist. Those are big. It's big. You can say anything you want, really, couldn't you?
You can't be wrong.
Who's going to prove you wrong? It's unbelievable. Oh, well, listen, you asked me about my week. Let me tell you about my week, and you know what my week is, right? Hold on 1 second, because I got to pull up some sites. It's Around the World with Soccer Coach TV. I just do that because I like seeing pictures of myself and music. That's the only reason. I might actually play it again. No, I'm just kidding. So, Marcus, I'm always browsing like you. We're like, deep six on the internet. We know no stone unturned. We see everything on the internet, and I'm always looking for stuff that catches my eye. I don't know who did this, okay, but I did a drill about a couple of years ago, on Soccer Coach TV called Tic Tac Toe. It was stupid drill, right? With my players. It was a game Tic Tac Toe, but you had to go and put, sprint to it. You've seen it before. I mean, that drill is my most popular video on Soccer Coach TV. It has 1.7 million views, right? It took me 5 minutes, not even. I didn't even prepare for it. I knew it. We went out there, and I think about some of the stuff I prepared for my drills, and that's what it's like, when you're a content creator, when you're a super YouTube influencer like me. You put all this work in, but anything, the craziest stuff works. But I'm going to show you something that caught my attention. I would love to have this, and I know you would have. How creative is the guy who thought about this?
Finish him. Game over.
Oh, that's awesome.
Isn't that brilliant? I love that creative mind. I love that. Hey, you could play that all day, wouldn't you?
Listen, a few beers in you, that game could get crazy.
The sound effects are the best part.
All right, we're still going around the world. Now we're going to India, okay? Did you know that India was the third biggest supporters of Soccer Coach TV? 11% of my audience are from India. I'm huge in India, huge. And so last night I was just getting ready for bed, had a long day, doing what I do, getting ready for bed, and then my phone rings, and my the video chat, and it's one of my friends, one of my followers from India, in Maui. And he calls me up and he says, "Look, I got my team here. We're playing in the quarterfinals of the India Cup, whatever they're in. They're a local amateur team." And he says, "Can you say hi to my players and give me a pep talk?" So I mean, let me find a pic. There he is, right there. He calls me, and there's his team. 11 o'clock last night. We talked for about 20 minutes. Talked to his team. Now I'm going to give you a Soccer Coach TV T-shirt if you can pronounce his last name.
I'm gonna.
How'd it go?
That. Dion, you got that last name in you?
Dion, let's see here. I'm going to go with Pathian Mawakhaute.
That's pretty good.
Okay.
Am I close at all?
You got a T-shirt coming your way, brother.
There we go.
We don't know, so we got to give it to you.
Hey, I've got a funky last name too, which helps me kind of break that down.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I got the long one too.
Marcus, how do you handle pressure?
I mean, everybody handles pressure differently. For me, I know myself now, so I know that nervous energy kills me. So no nervous energy whatsoever. Everything's got to be relaxed. I'll give you one quick story. So I visited one of the only Shaolin monks kind of around, right? Obviously the only Shaolin monk in New York City. And I asked him that, like, high performers, like, are you nervous when you get in a fight and you do that? No nerves whatsoever. Everything is relaxed. And we see this from Olympic swimmers who stay relaxed until 3 seconds before they jump in the water. I'll give you one last one. I can remember Danny Gaspar telling us about one of the goalkeepers before the World Cup game. Used to get so nervous, and that's a tried and true professional, and they would have to have him watch his own highlight film with his favorite music for a couple minutes, and then he was ready to play. So I think pressure is something that everybody handles differently, but you got to figure it out if you're going to perform.
Well, nobody handles pressure better than Dion.
I don't know about that.
Listen,
nah, you're a liar.
I'm going to show you some stuff in a bit, but Dion, I mean, I got goosebumps watching his videos. Really, really goosebumps. But before we get into that, let me just say that a little bit about Dion. Dion, he was born in Woodlands, Texas, and he's lived in Australia, in Sydney. He's Los Angeles, California, Dallas, Texas, Miami, Florida. I think where you live now. Is that correct?
Actually, no, we've added a couple more to that. We went to South Carolina, and now I'm out in California in the Bay Area now.
All right. He's a fantastic guy. He's featured on he's been on the popular TED series, and I'm a big fan of the TED series. I've watched hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of TEDs. And if you're a viewer watching this show tonight and you've never seen TED Talks, go to YouTube and type in TED Talks, and they're some of the brightest minds all over the world. And they get 15 minutes. I think you got 18 minutes when I looked at YouTube, but maybe that was
And I still don't know why they had me on. Everyone else is like this amazing, like they're curing cancers and they're doctors and they're nuclear physicists, and I'm there talking about driving race cars. It felt very out of place.
No, I'll tell you exactly why they had you on. It was inspirational. It gave an insight into overcoming obstacles where most people would have laid down and curled up in bed. And it was a great example of, at your deepest moments in your life, those challenges you have in your life, those hurdles, which we all have.
Totally. Absolutely.
And that's the thing about sports and other things that it's so real when you get into situations in life where you struggle and you have an option. You can pull that blanket over your head and, go deeper and deeper, or you can pull it off and get up and fight. And I'm going to talk in detail a little bit about your journey. I mean, I have to show a video. But Dion has competed in the Tudor United Sports Car Championships, the Grand Am Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge, and earned his first victory at the Watkins Glen International, followed by victories at Mid-Ohio and Miller Motorsports Park. In addition, he competed at Daytona Prototype class. That was the Rolex Series, which is big time, where he won Rookie of the Year. Congratulations on that.
Thanks, man.
He also competed in the American Le Mans Series and a win at Lime Rock. Is that Lime Rock, Connecticut?
Lime Rock, Connecticut. Yep,
yeah,
absolutely.
Get in there.
That was my first professional win.
And he's also co-founder of Blayze, which is a remote personal coaching platform, which I am a huge fan of. And I've seen it firsthand. It's absolutely, we're going to talk about that. So, Dion, what got you into driving race cars, you crazy mother? Who would do that in the right mind?
I think everybody wants to become a race car driver, right? Like it's every little boy's dream at the time. But honestly, I was lucky. My parents had always been fans of racing, and when they grew up, my family's South African, and when my uncle grew up, my dad grew up, they raced dirt bikes and went to like the Formula One Grand Prix back in the day when they used to race at Kyalami. So we'd always been motorsports fans. And, early in my life, we had moved around a ton, and we had just moved to Miami, and I was going to this middle school where you had no textbooks, but it was laptops. So, of course, we spent all day just playing video games in the middle of class, not paying attention. I wasn't doing that well, and my dad wanted me to switch schools again. And, this was before Facebook days, so I'm really dating myself now, where you had to, lose all your friends, make new friends every time that you switch schools. So I didn't want to. So he just sat me down and says, hey, I'm going to bribe you. I'll buy you a really nice gaming computer, or we'll get a go-kart and go have some fun. It was never meant to be a career. It was never meant to be racing. It was meant to just go have some fun with it. And, of course, as a 13-year-old boy, I said, go-kart, I'm in. Let's do this. And next thing you know, it's a career.
How bad does your dad regret that decision? Xbox, how much?
A few $100 probably. A few $100, yeah.
Get a load of money into your racing career, brother.
Yeah, I think I won that one.
Bought 2 Xboxes, whatever.
Oh, at least, yeah. over the years, quite a few Xboxes would have replicated that.
So you got the bug, right?
Yep.
Got into go-karts. How do you get from go-karts to racing professionally?
Yeah, it's similar to any other sport with a ladder system. So at the junior levels, you have, your regional championships, you have state championships, you have national championships, you have world championships. So a few months after my first race, I was competing for state championships. And then a year later, I was at world championships competing there. And really the biggest jump, which is a little bit not like any other sport, is when you transition out of go-karts to cars. And there are organizations that are quasi-teaching, quasi-racing series, and there's a lot of fundamentals that apply from a go-kart to a car, but there's a lot of huge differences as well. Now you have suspension, the way the car moves, feels, it's very, very different. So I don't even have an analogy of a different sport that has something similar to this. So a lot of people that are quick in go-karts are terrible in cars. I was luckily one that transitioned and did pretty well. It took me some time to figure out cars. But yeah, you just you come up the ladder in go-karts, you switch to cars, and then there's a ladder system that's kind of like high school, college.
Right. Well, let me ask you on that, because in professional soccer, academies are huge. We have all these academies for the the scouts are out there. We identify the talent. We bring them in at a young age, and we groom them to be hopefully professional soccer players, which very, very few do from the academies. I was watching on Netflix a show, I think it was called Formula One or something. I'm sure you've seen it on Netflix, that series.
Drive to Survive?
I was addicted.
It's a fantastic show. Fantastic.
Well, I'd never really watched race car driving. Never really watched Formula driving. Mm-hmm. And just during the pandemic one day, I'd run out of shows to watch, and I seen this and I put it on. I binged on it. I watched every one after the year. There must have been a few days, but they do bring in young kids at a young age. I mean, kids at a young age, right? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first off, if you hate motorsports and you think it's the most boring thing alive, go watch that. Like, it's still enjoyable. There's plenty of people I know that are like can't watch a motor race but love that. So, ultimately there's a lot of different disciplines within the sport. So, the best analogy I would have is imagine that the game lengths and subtle rules in the MLS were different than Premier League. And, Formula One has this sprint race, just format that's extremely intense where they want younger kids into those cars. In my background of sports car racing, which was endurance racing, 24-hour races, 12-hour races, they actually want a slightly older audience. So depending on which format of racing you get into, the ages, the personalities, and what teams look for in a professional are different.
Wow.
But we talk about going in, there's like Max Verstappen's one of the youngest Formula One drivers, and he was signed when he was 18 years old, and he is right into the limelight. It's a $300 million program, and he's the one leading it. And being an 18-year-old kid and trying to deal with that pressure, I mean, I didn't have to deal with that, and I couldn't even imagine that at that age.
It's really fascinating stuff. I mean, I could talk for all day about some comparisons. Marcus, what do you think? Any similarities you see in race car driving for soccer?
Ooh, I mean, I don't know the sport so well, and the thing that jumps out to my mind is, if you're in a race car and you're driving by yourself, I know that you have your crew and you represent everybody and so forth. But it really is yourself that's out there, and in a collective sport, it's a little bit different because it's not just yourself, but in many ways, for me, then also in a race car, you're gonna die if you screw up. In soccer, you're not gonna die. Like, geez, there's a big difference right there, right? It's really hard for me to compare the. Obviously, I'm not a race car guy, but listen, if I miss a goal, I'm not gonna die, so that's good.
I mean, they're definitely getting safer nowadays, but it's more of a team sport than you would think. And it's not a team sport from the athlete on the field, but when you look at a race car, there's so much engineering behind it, the pit stops, how the car's set up, that are almost in some instances more important than the driver. So it does turn into more of a team sport than you would think, but the conversation and how that interacts is obviously very, very different.
We're going to get into some real details in a few minutes, but before we do, Marcus, did you know that there's some really famous footballers who actually either turned their back on professional football to be race car drivers, or they, after they retired from football and making those millions went into it? Did you know that?
No, I had no idea.
Yeah, I did some research today. I'm going to show you 3 of them and see if. So we had the former Tottenham Hotspur manager, Villas-Boas. He went on to be a race car driver. Did you know that?
No, did he really?
Yeah. There's a whole article on the internet. I did work there. The former Liverpool and Real Madrid star, Jerzy Dudek. I'm not familiar with him, but I don't follow. Yeah, and the French World Cup winning goalkeeper, Fabien Barthez. All of them. There was actually more than that. I just picked 3 out of the bunch. Really? But I'm not sure how good they were, but they went on to professional careers. Listen, NASCAR, right? Is only second to American football in the United States in terms of TV viewership.
Crazy.
Every TV network on the planet would dream of having NASCAR because it guarantees them massive viewings. Am I right, Dion?
Yeah, totally. I've been surprised. Like, look, the format of racing we do is not the oval, so it's turning left and right, more like what you see in Formula One. But what blew me away is there is something I saw literally 2 months ago that was what brands had the biggest jump in popularity amongst Gen Z, the only sport on that list was NASCAR, which I was completely stunned by. Like, with the cars meaning less to younger people wanting to drive less. I know that all sports are a little bit worried with the Gen Z audience. The fact that NASCAR has done the best with that audience, I was completely shocked by.
You know what? I got to ask you this. Like, growing up, like, all my friends, not all of them, but a good amount of them, they're popping wheelies on their bikes, skate. I was terrible at that stuff. I wasn't a daredevil. I couldn't ride. I'm assuming that kids who are a little more like that, skilled-wise, dirt bikes, do you think there's a little better transfer to becoming successful as a race car driver if you're natural? Because in soccer, let me tell you, Greener, right? You see a 6-year-old kid, and sometimes you look at that kid and say, you know what? That kid's going to he's a natural. He's got something to him, Is it the same way in racing?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when I was growing up in karting, there was definitely some kids that were just on it. But I think with anything else, as kids mature and as you improve, my big belief is you've got to have some of that edge, but the vast majority of it is learned skill, put in the time in, and you can overcome that. Like, I definitely am not the most talented, right? And funny enough, growing up in karting, I look at a guy named Joseph Newgarden, who's a 2-time IndyCar champion. He's a partner of ours at Blayze, and he was not the best go-karter. Like, if he beat me, I was having a very bad day. Now, he's one of the best race car drivers on the planet. So I think there's absolutely some of that, but there's less than I would have thought.
Interesting.
Listen, we're going to get into a lot of stuff, but for 10 seconds, we've got to go to a commercial. Brought to you by SoccerClinics.com, the world's first coaching website, and the DiBernardo Soccer School, featuring the world's only cognitive coaching course. And we're back. Hey, Blayze, I'm going to pull up a few photographs because I hacked your Facebook page, if you don't mind me saying.
So I need to update my password?
I'm awesome at doing most of the hacking stuff. And
so that explains all of this.
So listen, you know what I really love about race car drivers, Marcus? You know what I really love?
What?
I love the outfits they wear, man. All the sponsorship and, look, he looks like an astronaut, Premier League, Champions League. Look at that outfit, man.
Listen,
it helps hide the face.
Now, that outfit, tell me something. Is that designed to protect you in case of fires? I mean, tell us a little bit about the dynamics of that outfit you got to wear.
So yeah, you have your fireproof overalls. Below that, we also have another layer of Nomex, which is like a shirt and like underwear that you wear underneath that. So you have really 2 layers of protective clothing. But the big thing, that one of the most important things, so you have fire, and then you also have dangers from G-forces. So of course, this invention came after Dale Earnhardt tragically died. And what happened with Dale Earnhardt is the car stopped so quickly, and he had nothing to stop his neck, and his neck broke, essentially. So we have something called a Hans device that plugs into our helmet, and that we have a 5-point seatbelt harness in the race car. So we don't just have a seatbelt that comes across the body. We have belts that come over both shoulders, over both hips, and then another belt that connects between the legs. It all comes together. And those seatbelts crank down on the harness on the Hans device, which is hooked into our helmet, and that limits how much your head can move in an instant.
And what people don't realize, it can get up to much as 3 to 4 G-forces, right, in that car?
Consistently for about 3 hours, 3 to 4 Gs.
And when you talk about G-forces, I mean, what does it feel like to have, level 4 G-force?
Yeah, so it's really hard to explain. So everyone thinks, okay, a race car, let me put myself in my street car to feel what it would be similar. There's just no similarities between driving a street car and driving a race car. So the race car is an extremely violent environment. So usually it's about 150 to 160 degrees. Like, I've literally seen teams take a raw chicken, put it in some tinfoil, and by the end of the race, it was fully cooked. And I'm not exaggerating. I've literally seen that. So about 150, 160 degrees. And for a quick question for Paul, we train, really 7 days a week. Some days are slightly off days, like chill stretch days, but usually intensive 2-a-days, 3 to 5 days a week.
Is that on the track?
No, actually. So you don't really, that's the hardest thing about the sport, is you don't really get practice. It's so expensive that you only really go practice an hour before you're actually on the track. So when I was competing professionally, you're competing 10 times, 12 times a year. And I'm on track maybe 15 times a year. Like maybe we'd have 2 days of practice, but that, again, you're not really practicing for you. The teams expect you to be on it. You're working on setup on the race car. So it's a sport where you're just expected from the get-go to be from lap one. You might not have driven for the last 3 months, but you've got to be ready to go.
That's absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Let
me just say, for anybody who's logged in right now and following us live on Facebook or YouTube, send your questions to Dion. If you've got any questions for him, it's a great opportunity to talk to a top-class race car driver, get some insights, pick his brains. Your questions are probably better than ours. So if there's anything you want to know, just put your questions up there and we'll post them on live show and get his feedback. Marcus, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, like Dion, that goes against everything about skill acquisition. You know, becoming attuned to your environment, gain, representative training that's realistic, that, to drive that little and put your life on the line, for me, that sounds insane. Like, do you think that you would benefit if you had more drive time on the track?
Yeah, I mean, look, you definitely, there's no doubt about it. Would we be better? Absolutely. But there's things that you can do to overcome that. So I'm a huge believer in the mental side of sports. I absolutely am fascinated by that. We put a lot of energy into it. So, how you visualize and the proper visualization every night consistently has been, one of the number one things that we can continue to do. There are subtle simulators that kind of replicate stuff. I am less of a believer in those, but you visualize a ton, you do a ton of prep work, and you just, you do what you have to do at the end of the day.
A lot of praying.
Okay, Marcus, let me take a chance. I just want to give a big shout out to our guests. People I guess our fans and friends and followers and who are watching us. Big shout out to Julianne Jones, great soccer player. She's absolutely a wonderful person. Andrew Muxbury, good friend of mine from Newcastle, England. Paul Newsom, again from England. He's watching the show live. Gina Dixon, and we've got Sadi Almayani, who's on. We got the Soccer Training Club. We appreciate you guys. Sonny Tepp, how are you, Sonny? He follows Soccer Coach TV all the time. But again, just want to thank you for following the show. Hey, and Dion, I just want to run some of these things by you, right? Some of these photographs. And is this the car you normally drive right here?
At the end of my career, yeah, that was a Lamborghini GT3 car that I was racing.
How much is insurance on a car like that?
To be honest with you, I actually have no clue. I just showed up and drove. I didn't know anything else. The team had to deal with all of that, but it's probably not very cheap. It's about I think I want to say that the car was about, do you want to buy it, 450,000 or something like that? That's incredible. Luckily that was nothing. They just paid me to go drive the thing.
But I know that you've wrecked a couple of those in your career, right?
Yeah. I've definitely, more than I should have.
How do you? I know you've. I'm going to talk about that in a bit, but I know that in a couple of times in your career, because I've did some research, that in very important events, right, it didn't work out the way that you thought it would, right?
Of course.
The pressure was on. You got rammed into the wall at 80 miles an hour, wrecked 100,000 plus valued car. You had to go back and apologize to the crew, the pit crew, the owner of the car who financed the whole thing. How difficult was that?
I mean, it was terrible. There's nothing around that. There's in this sport, it's a sport where it's slightly pro-am. So you can pay money to be at the professional rank, and very few people are actually paid to drive race cars. Probably less than 150 in the world. And you get to this level, and not only do you have to be fast, but you can't crash race cars. If you crash race cars, they're not going to pay you to drive them. So, it's a big deal when that happens. And, it's funny enough, like the incident you were talking about, I was driving a prototype car. So it's like multi-class racing. And, I made a mistake out of pit lane and I hit another car. I had to go apologize to our crew. I had to apologize to the other crew. And funny enough, 4 years down the road, the team that I crashed into ended up hiring me. And, I know if I didn't go apologize and just own up to it, the chances of them hiring me 4 or 5 years later are probably zero.
Oh, if I scratched my girlfriend's car, she would go freaking ape shit. I mean, I couldn't imagine me go to hey, darling, I just wrecked you. It's $100,000 car just wrecked. How would your missus react, Marcus?
No, it wouldn't be so good. It wouldn't be so good. No.
Yeah. All right. I mean, it's just crazy that the money involved. What surprised me when I watched that Netflix series, and anybody who's wants to be entertained, watch it. It's not just about racing. It's about just lessons in life and the pressure and the violence. It's a very violent sport. People don't realize too, but it's just really interesting. Let me just move on. But it wasn't all bad, right?
No, of course.
There you go.
Lucky to drive for some of the best teams in the world. What
was that award?
That one was Watkins Glen. So at the time it was pretty big, but since then that's now luckily it ended up, I don't even think I have that trophy anymore. So we won some bigger ones down the road. That's the one thing with crystal trophies, man. You drop them in a whoopsie, Yeah, they definitely break pretty quickly.
So, who are these people?
So this is what you don't know. So the Daytona 24-hour race, it's 3 to 5 drivers per car. So here are my teammates, and essentially you would come in for fuel and tires. You would also do a driver change. So some of these drivers are amateurs that paid for me to be the professional in the car to really carry the car in that race. Yeah. So these are my teammates in that. This is 2010, 2011, something like that.
You get some good crowds at these events.
Yeah, the 12 hours of Sebring, about 200,000 people out there partying throughout the event. And I tell you what, they get nuts. So 12 hours of Sebring, this is 2012. We were, it's our second biggest race of the year. And it starts at 10 in the morning, ends at 10 o'clock at night. And, I was in the car to finish, which is the big stint. The pressure's on. The sun's down. It's dark. It's intense, right? And we're out there, and you're pushing every lap, like full attack, qualifying mode. And I'll never forget, I came out of the turn 5 or heading down to turn 7, and there was just smoke across the track. And I was like, what the hell? Like, went on the radio, asked, it's like, is everything okay? Are we under full course yellow, or is it green? They're like, no, everything's fine. And I come down to the next corner in turn 7, and to the inside, I look, and I see this huge fire. And it turns out an hour before the end of the race, the fans decided to create a massive bonfire, and there was couches in there, and they were going completely nuts. So your last hour of the race, it's pitch dark. You have nothing. You can't see anything. And now there's smoke across the track into the brake zones.
that is amazing.
Are those other guys that were on your team, are they partying by the time you're finishing the last bit?
No, they had no fingernails left because we were battling for the win that time. Luckily, we were able to win that race.
All right, explain this picture.
Oh, that's bungee jumping in South Africa.
Now I know you're crazy, man. You're absolutely.
Oh, that's nothing.
Marcus, Marcus, what is the fastest you've ever been in any vehicle? Apart from an airplane. I mean, land vehicle. What's the fastest you've ever been?
I've probably outrunning the cops this weekend, 120 miles an hour, maybe. No.
I went. Go ahead.
Maybe 95 miles an hour, maybe.
My friend from England when I was young, Tony Boyd, had a motorcycle, and there was this big straight road back where I lived, and he put me on his back of his motorcycle, and it was a Yamaha. I think he did like 105 miles an hour. And I was in the back of him, gripping him, crying like a little baby, screaming at him to slow down, slow down. I mean, I was traumatized, You go over 100 miles an hour, and I was thinking, what happens if we hit a rock? We hit something in the road. I'm dead. Yeah. But, people get that thrill, just like Dion, you know what I mean?
I don't want to be on the back of a motorcycle.
What does it feel like? Because these cars go at least 200 miles an hour at the top, putting your foot down, right?
Yeah, totally.
I didn't realize that some motorcycles can go that fast too.
Oh, the motorcycles are ridiculous. I don't understand that at all. No, thank you. I've got no interest. They scare the hell out of me.
Would you for 10 grand? Would you race a motorcycle like 50 laps?
If I don't have to hit a minimum lap time, if I could just be out there cruising, right? Then absolutely. But I've never even ridden like when you drive a motorcycle. I've been on the back of one, but I've never actually driven one myself.
Have you ever seen anybody try to race a race car on a motorcycle?
Yeah, we have like drag race stuff like that. But what we do is, so there's systems that create data on everything that we do in the race car. So you see your GPS speed, exactly how much throttle percent, exactly how much brake pressure, and exactly the moment. And we've overlaid that data over motorcycles. So for instance, one of our coaches, the guy I was actually talking about earlier, Ken Hill, he does motorcycles and cars. So we've overlaid data to see how they generate lap time in different ways, but I've never like been on track with both at the same time, just because I wouldn't feel comfortable being out there with motorcycles while I've got fenders and doors. And
so, I mean, how many laps on average is in a race?
So the average race for us was 2 hours and 45 minutes. The longer races were 24-hour races. So you're looking at, again, now lap times, how long a track completely varies. There's some tracks that are 1.5 miles long. There's some tracks that are 5 miles long.
When you say 24 hours, it's not 24 hours nonstop, right?
24 hours nonstop.
So you get in, you get out, when you've done your load, the next driver gets in.
Correct. So we'll average.
It's the ultimate of teamwork, really. The pit
100%.
crew, the other drivers, everybody who's dealing with the logistics of the, communication with you.
Yeah, so get this.
You're like an astronaut in there, right?
Yeah, so you'll do 3 hours in the car at a time. And so in 2013, the biggest win of my career, I was driving for Audi, my first opportunity with the factory. This is the biggest race like at the planet at the time. And they had engineers in Germany running simulations on race strategy coming back to the US. We won the race after 24 hours of racing. We won it by 1.4 seconds.
It's unbelievable.
It's hard to, you are looking after 24 hours of just flat out going 3 car lengths.
Yeah, for me, that often you've probably seen this, and you've on YouTube. I read stats. The people who lose championships, like Olympians, with 5 thousandths of a second, and they get a silver. They're not Olympic gold. How must that haunt them for the rest of their lives if that was their one chance at it? I mean, you can't do anything in 1,000th of a second.
No, you can't get your stopwatch to stop before 100th of a second.
You talked about that on TED Talks. I mean, and it struck me. It's like that is literally a split second, a life changer, a career changer, a changer between whether you get a job, whether you get a contract, whether you come first or fifth. The difference, Marcus, between first place in race car and fifth is like 2,000. What is it?
Yeah, I mean, it totally depends, but I've seen it. I've seen the top 20 cars within a few tenths of a second.
Oh my God.
Top 20.
If you're driving that long at a clip, do you take like caffeine a little before you get in the car, like anything like that?
Yeah, so funny enough, at the Le Mans 24 hours, for the longest time, coffee was not even allowed. Luckily, I didn't have to deal with that, so I definitely had some pre-workout. I liked caffeine. I felt like it helped my performance. So a lot of the people that we work with didn't like that I did that because I know it dehydrates you a little bit with how hot the car is. But I still felt like for my performance, it did help me. So I was definitely doing some like your normal off-the-counter pre-workout drinks.
Yeah.
So what about going to say we were buddies, right? The three of us, and we came to see you driving. Me and Marcus would probably take you out. We'd drink about 10 beers, right? Wouldn't we, Marcus? We'd get him shit-faced, wouldn't we?
There we go. Now we're talking.
Then you race the next day. What happens if you want to pee? You know what I mean? 3 hours.
You go
right. There's a big.
You got no option, because I tell you what, the most uncomfortable thing in the world. So I talked about that 5-point harness, right? So you have this like big metal thing that is all the seatbelts connected, and it's right on your bladder. And when you're braking, you're talking about 4 G's of force. So your body is smashing into that, right? If you have to pee, and it's hitting you in the bladder with 4 G's of force, which is 4 times the body weight of your whole body. Yeah. So it's not fun.
Do you get points deducted if you throw it out the window for the guy behind you? I mean,
no, not luckily, no.
What is that?
All right. Listen, it's important. Listen, if you ever get stuck out in the desert or something, you can survive by drinking your own pee. That's a fact.
For how long, though?
I'll send you some if you ever get stuck in the desert, Marcus.
Yeah, how long that goes for, I don't know. But
I'm pretty sure it gets poisonous after a while once you don't have the water to like break down the.
You know what? Questions.
Marcus, I think anybody who's watching this, and us included, obviously, Dion's given us just a fraction of an insight into what it's like and what his career was like. Watch this little bit of YouTube clip. We're going to watch it for a minute or two. And it sent shivers down my spine when I thought, my God, you feel like you're inside the car when he talks on this TED Talk here. We're just going to watch a little bit about it here. And let me see if I can find it. Here we go. I think this is it right here. Let's have a look. I hope you guys can see this. Hold on a second. And that's the thing, Dion, with when you go. Hold on a second. This may not work.
Oh, good.
It's
when
not
technology breaks.
But you know what? That's part of it. Hold on one second. Let me just see if I can do one thing here. And we'll give it one more try. If it doesn't work.
Dion could simulate this. He could just start.
Yeah, exactly. I had to practice that so much I could probably quote it right off the bat.
Let me just see if this works when I press this. Let me just see.
That's it.
It is worth watching. Hold on.
Race car is a violent environment.
You can see it now? No?
It gets
we saw it, but then he just went into it, then it just lost.
You can pull as much as
I love it. I would really wanted to show this,
your head, your neck, your shoulders can weigh 3 or 4 times what they usually weigh. The steering wheel.
We hear him, Greener, but we don't see him.
Let me. I would like to.
Should I just mouth over this so it looks like I'm talking?
Yeah. Let me try one more time. I'm not going to give up. I mean, hey, listen, this is reality. This is not pre-rehearsed or anything.
Exactly. That's what makes it fun.
Whenever you do live stream, you put it on the line, and you try to do the best you can, and you'll learn. That's one thing, Marcus. We talked about this the other day. We're just getting better and better, aren't we? We make mistakes every show. Not big mistakes, but we sit and talk. We could have done that better. We should pay more attention to our audience. We should be doing this. We evaluate everything that we do. I'll give it one more bash. If I can, I'll research it.
I do everything right.
It will never happen again. Maybe there's something that I am not pressing here where I should be. Hold on one second. Okay, this might help. Let me see. It doesn't seem to be. No, it's not working.
Oh well.
All right, well, we'll move on from there. It's a shame because I did want people to get an insight into your TED Talk and what it took, and basically what I took away from it. I mean, a race car is a really violent environment. Tremendously. People don't realize. I mean, like you talk about death, Marcus. I mean, it's a violent. Just the force of being in that car, traveling 200 miles an hour, the G forces. Can you talk a little bit about that? When you talk about weight of the steering wheel and all the different things that go into it.
Yeah, totally. So we use G-forces as a big metric, right? And essentially what G-forces is how many more times does your body weigh in that environment. So when you're turning into like a right-hand corner, it's, 4 Gs on your neck. So your head weighs normally 8 pounds. It's now weighing 32 pounds. So your neck's straining to hold it up. You normally don't have power steering either. So in the cars, your steering wheel is nice and light. In the race car, you're really trying to, attack and hold that steering wheel in. For example, when we're really nailing the brakes, we're giving that brake pedal 1,500 pounds of pressure. Now we're doing that 5, 6, 7 times a lap, and we're doing a lap in a minute and a half. So we're doing how many laps in over 3 hours, right? Now you go back, you sleep for an hour and a half, you're back to pit lane for an hour before your stint, and you're back out there for 3 hours in a car that's 150 degrees. You're typically losing 10 to 15 pounds of body weight per stint, just sweat coming out of your body. Your arms, your shoulders, your neck are exhausted. Your legs, 1,500 pounds of force. But then you also have to be super, super fine with your manipulation of the brake pedal. So like how you generate grip in a race car it's all from your input. So you actually steer a race car fundamentally more with your feet than with your steering wheel. Like, yes, the steering wheel is what makes the car turn, but it all comes down to how much pressure you have on the front nose to give it more front grip or to reduce that front grip based on the balance of the car. And that might be, I need just that little bit less brake pressure or just a little bit more brake pressure at the end. So you have to be able to hit it hard, quick release, have the motor skills to be able to do that while manipulating, all of that at 200 miles an hour, overtaking cars, and be, you're running laps within 1/10 of a second to 3/10 of a second, at flat out pace for 2 hours.
I think for most people, that's just incomprehensible. They can't understand that. Let me ask you one more question before we move on to that great platform you have, Blayze. So you're traveling 200 miles an hour. It's split-second decisions. You make your move. You decided, now I'm putting my foot down as hard as I can. I'm going to overtake this guy. There's not much room between each tire when you overtake this guy. Probably inches, not even feet, right?
Yeah, totally. Sometimes no inches. Sometimes there's a little bit of...
How do you reach that level of concentration when me and Marcus can't even get our guys to focus on a corner kick, It takes them forever to get organized, to be focused for 90 minutes, let alone passing somebody to them. How do you get into that level of focus?
It's fascinating. So for me, I'm a big believer in square breathing, meditation, to be able to kind of tune in. And what I've found is, so in a race car, right, like there's no, even on the straightaways, you're hitting buttons, you're having to look around you. You're never, ever just relaxed. But that doesn't mean that your mind sometimes can't leave where it is. And what I learned from, being able to luckily learn from some top people was when you train your mind away from that environment and you focus on that square breathing, on the visualization, and you bring that level of concentration to anything that you do, you're able to have to understand or to realize that mental chatter earlier than you would otherwise. So essentially, without any mental training, you might think you're in the moment, and then you go out there and compete, and you come back after, you're like, why the hell was I thinking about like my algebra test and 20 minutes into it? And you don't even realize that's happening in the moment. So for me, being able to away from the environment, do my mental training, practice my square breathing, practice what do I need to do to find that zone. Then when I go out there and compete, it's not like my mind's not leaving every once in a while, but I realize I hear that mental chatter entering sooner, and I'm able to square breathe even from in the car and bring it back to where it needs to be. So I think it's part awareness and part understanding like what works for you and where is that zone? How, like, what does it feel like?
Marcus, you were talking the other day when we were talking about, the people who are climbing cliffs and, that zone. Tell me a little bit about that zone that they get into.
I mean, the reality is that, I was talking to Dion before about the book. I believe it was called Finding Superman. And it almost becomes addictive for some of these people who are in these high risk type of sports. And they love it because it puts them in that zone of meditation. It puts them in that zone of flow, because if they go anywhere else than that, they might die. And that I found, so interesting. And we've all had, even like I wrote about this in one of my articles about when I'm so focused on what I'm doing, like I'm putting together the day's practice plan. And the next thing you know, I'm totally zoned out. But at the same time, I'm on the subway and I know I have to get off. Like, you know what I'm saying? So your subconscious mind is still aware of other things, even though you're so focused. And boom, and I get to where I need to have to go and all these types of things. But it's really an interesting, high performance is really an interesting thing to see. And, obviously this is a soccer show, Greener, but for me, this is so interesting because like when I was exposed to, for a second, to high level tennis, or if you look at martial arts and now you look at a race car driver, all these things do overlap, to a certain extent. High level performance overlaps.
Well,
and
Mark, how long have I been saying to you, and I've been talking this is about on my show, our show, is that if you're only going to look in your own back garden, you know what I'm saying? If you're a soccer coach, if you're only looking for ideas from other soccer coaches, it's going to be limited. It always will be. You look at basketball coaches. What are they doing? Look at golfers. Look at race car drivers.
Even outside of sports, to be honest with you, like
look how they train. Look at the technology they use. Is just absolutely phenomenal. So Paul Newsom, great friend of mine, love him. Great guy, super coach out there. What is the car that you drive now?
So I don't race anymore, really. Sometimes I go and coach one-on-one in person with some people.
What do you drive to Stop and Shop?
So my parents moved back to South Africa and they gave us their Q5, their old 2011 Q5. So it's the only car we've got, out in the Bay. I used to have a GTI and I still love that car. I miss that when we moved to the Bay Area. It's kind of like a one car kind of place. So I had to unfortunately sell that, which I still miss it.
So, hey, as long as it gets you to A to B. I've never been a car guy. I've never been a guy. I want a fancy car. And for me, it's just like, if it's got a wheel in each corner, right? And it's got gas in it, that's fine.
You could probably have fun in anything. As long as you have a nice e-brake, you can do a little drifting, you're good.
I would, Fred Flintstone, and Barney Rubble, that. I would use that one as long as it got me there. Listen, before we move on, just want to talk a little bit about ESPN, Marcus.
Yes.
Well, aren't you curious why I'm wearing the ESPN and not SoccerCoachTV today?
Listen, I am curious. Why don't you give me a hint, Greener?
Listen, I live 5 minutes from ESPN in Bristol, Connecticut, right? I got on LinkedIn a couple of months ago. My marketing plan, right? The game plan was to email everybody, to be friends with everybody on ESPN. So I came up with a plan. I sent, friend requests, contacts, everything, producers, executive producers, talent searchers, editors, voiceover people, you name it. Anybody had ESPN in their profile, I sent them. And so we want a chance, don't we, Marcus? ESPN, they spend millions of dollars on all these big time soccer, you games and soccer shows, stuff like that. What about the majority? That's just the top of the pyramid. ESPN, are you listening to me? You've got talent right here, right in your own neighborhood. What you're focusing on is, great. Premier League, Champions League, good. But that's the top of the pyramid. At the bottom of the pyramid, you've got high school coaches, youth coaches, parent coaches, volunteer coaches. And there's no voice out there for them on ESPN. Everybody's talking pro, international, all technical stuff. You need people like us. We are connected with people. We've already got an audience of 300,000 between the two of us, Marcus?
Yeah, about that.
Easily. And not just an audience, but relationships. So listen, anybody from ESPN who's watching us, you can contact us, contact SoccerCoachTV. We want an audition. We want to have our own show to talk to the coaches, the parent volunteers, those high school coaches, to help them out with knowledge, to show them drills. Go to our websites. You'll see what we do. We've got great street cred. Would you say, Marcus?
Well, not to mention, Greener, you look so ridiculously handsome in the ESPN shirt, too. That's
what I was thinking. I even worked out a little bit tonight, to put the muscles on there. But I think Dion, do you think we deserve at least an interview or a shot to see what we could do?
There's no doubt about it. When you look at engagement metrics today, I was talking to a soccer family the other day out here in the Bay Area, and they were talking about how the people they look up to are like the college level athletes now, not even the professional athletes, but the people that they can relate to. So if you have a show that you're engaging with people that we know that you can engage with, it's so different than anything else out there. And I think it's what people really want in today's world.
Who's watching ESPN? It's the mums, the dads, all these teenagers. So, we're not helping them really. Yeah, you're entertaining them. But create a platform where you can get into the communities, you can get into the households. For that guy who's watching an NFL game or a basketball game, he's also coaching Little League basketball probably, right? Or
100%.
Little League soccer. Why don't they put a show on like ours where we can teach them all these tips about coaching? The second thing is, too, if you don't want to do that, I want you to help me because I want to travel around the world coaching coaches and clubs in different countries all over the world. These people need help. Africa, China. We've got supporters, fans in India, Bangladesh, Kenya, and Africa. You see the environments they work on. We take a crew on the road, Marcus, right? And we go into those communities and we teach them how to play soccer. We show them, we share cultures. What a great idea. What a great project for ESPN. A little bit of promotion there. ESPN, think about it. Would appreciate it. Just a chance, just a cup of coffee and let us give you a shot. So, from now, so basically, I want to talk right now about a great platform you've got. You've went from race car driving to creating a great platform called Blayze. Okay, tell us a little bit about Blayze.
Yeah, absolutely. So, where Blayze came from is as my professional career started to wind down, I got more and more active in coaching. And, initially I thought the problems that we were looking at were motorsport specific, right? Like we're our own little bubble ecosystem in the sports world. And what I found was at the amateur level, the access to professional coaching, to world-class coaches, like individuals like yourselves, just wasn't there in a personalized format. And when we looked at it, why, it was A, I don't know them, or B, I can't afford to learn from someone like that. And then when I looked at my peers, who people I consider world-class, incredibly professional coaches, they were looking for ways to monetize themselves in additional formats. And also they're looking at, well, how do I scale my business and make a bigger impact in our sport? And, there's great formats like courses out there that do an amazing job that really introduce you. But I'm a big believer in, once you get past that introduction, coaching needs to be a personalized thing. So how do you scale in a one-to-one format professional coaches, lower their costs, and help them scale their business, and now enabling athletes, no matter where they live in the world, to live personally from them? And we built this system initially called Racers 360 in the motorsports format, and we're just blown away at the level of coaches we were able to get, the results from athletes, like literally going from finishing the bottom 10% of races to winning the first national championship in 18 months by being able to now learn from world-class people. And as I started to connect and talk with coaches in other sports, and even outside of sports, we started to realize, wait a minute, the problem that we're looking to solve, it's not a motorsport specific problem. It exists everywhere.
Exactly.
Everyone wants to be able to learn personally from world-class people, but it's just, in reality, you can't afford it. You don't have access. And something I'm passionate about, because I would never have reached the professional ranks if I didn't have world-class coaches early on. So essentially at Blayze, we've built this platform that allows you to learn one-on-one from the world's best. We built it initially in motorsports. We've now scaled into soccer. So here we highly curate coaches so that they are able to be world-class communicators. They have world-class resumes. I'm talking, collegiate head coaches, ex-MLS coaches, and then some. We don't onboard just because someone's been a professional player doesn't mean they could be a professional coach. But we're lucky enough to find current world-class players who are also world-class communicators, like Nicole Barnhart, who's a 2-time Olympic gold medalist. And let you send your video in. Based on your position, we're going to talk to you about exactly the videos that our coaches want to see to get a focus first on fundamentals. We've seen 92% of our professional coaches have to reteach fundamentals to the players that they work with. I'll be interested to hear both of your thoughts on this. And then from there, you build a relationship with this coach where you're continually getting, this in-depth video analysis for as little as, $39.
Marcus, don't you feel that if you're an athlete and you aspire to get to a certain level and your coach wasn't a soccer player or hasn't had experience at a higher level, do you think that limits the player, just taking information from that coach at that level? What do you feel the benefits of seeking out the best, Marcus? Yeah,
listen. Seeking out the best, and now let me just comment on technology. Like, the technology makes this whole thing possible. Like, it's this whole world. Like, even right now, like, I'm currently studying on ecological training environments in soccer, right? And I would have never been able to do that 5 years ago. Like, this is amazing. For $190, I'm studying a 10-week course, and it's just great to have interaction with all these other coaches and stuff. So as a player, listen, I learned from my dad started our local soccer league in our town, and he never played soccer in his life. He just didn't want me to play American football because that's what he was, and he didn't want me to play that. So, the reality was that I learned technique from a picture book from Will Corvier in Holland. I got it at Christmas one year, and I literally went out to the backyard every day with that picture book to learn techniques. If I had access to something like this, it would have been amazing. Like, there's no downside to this. Like, qualified coaches. And I tell you what, it's always nice to get a diversity of opinions too. Like, I would love to work with one person and work with another person because everybody has their own views and you can always benefit. So that's kind of my take. I think it's awesome.
And it's learning from their experience. If you can get a chance to talk to a semi-professional coach or a college coach, Division 1, Division 2, anybody who's had experience in the game, you're only going to benefit. It's absolutely no-brainer for me. I've looked at your platform a lot. I've went through it, looked at it. You know, I'm a big fan. When we talked months and months ago, and I checked it out, and this is recent today. And I just think this is cutting edge. This can be a big changer for athletes out there, regardless if it's soccer, lacrosse, golf, football, whatever. Whenever you can get tutelage from somebody who's spent the years, in the trenches learning and give you, honest feedback. I think that's the key, Dion. It's not feedback just to have you come back again and do another video or whatever. You've got to develop that relationship and trust with that athlete. And I think if you guys can offer that, the advice, but the honest opinion with these kids, I think you're onto a big time winner.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right there. Like the great thing about working with great coaches is, of course, everyone wants to be able to make a living and a better living doing it. But what they care most about is how well their athlete does, the results from it. So the great thing is by highly curating our coaches, we're really focusing in on the experience you get, the level of communication you get. And what's been really interesting in this journey is starting to see some of the science behind how asynchronous coaching works and the impact of video analysis, or really what we call performance analysis, because it's not just video analysis, and how it's really an additive to the in-person coaching. And the type of coaching that you're going to get on Blayze it's different than what you're going to get from your practice fields, from your in-person coaching. When you take yourself out of the emotional state, whether you're practicing, you're on the field, you're working through things, you always have some emotions going through, and you're able to take yourself out of that and really have this deep dive, slow motion, really see visual differences on how you did something different tactically, or how the field looked, or how your body position looked, and have that experience from world-class people. It's just the science that's coming out right now has been fascinating to see.
Dion, take us a little bit by the step. So the first thing I would do if I went to Blayze, the Blayze.io, correct? Not .com.
Correct. Yeah, Blayze, BLAYZE.io.
Yeah, the first thing I'm going to do if I'm an athlete, I'm going to come to this. What's the first step?
So really the first step is just in the top right corner. We've got this big red button that says create your free account. When it essentially creates an account on our athlete dashboard. Very soon we're going to have a mobile app coming out. So totally free account. You sign up. From there, you're going to enter your position. So if you don't have a position, you hit I don't know. But if you're a forward, a midfielder, a defender, a goalkeeper, you just enter that. And then based on your position, our coaches have essentially given us the initial 3 drills that they want to see the athlete working through, so they can see, for a midfielder, your possession, your dribbling technique, how you are on and off the ball, how you move, your vision, right? They want to be able to see and understand your entry. They're going to now, you just upload that drill. So you film yourself using your phone or GoPro. If you have fancier cameras, great, but you don't need them. You just record yourself just like we're going to show you for your first coaching session. You send that in. After that, you can select from our coaches, or you can let us select a coach for you based off of some questions that we're going to ask you on learning techniques and things like that. So you can select a coach, and then you send your video in, and then within 48 hours or so, you're going to get back this personalized video analysis. Everything lives on your dashboard, so you can rewatch your coaching session anytime. You can get written notes from your coach. You can ask them questions. And then based off of that, your coach is not only going to record the coaching session, but they're also going to recommend what they would like to see next to see that improvement. So if they want to see game film, you can upload game film. If they want to see you running through specific drills to work on, I don't know, like your left foot ball control, whatever they've identified that they want to work on, they're going to recommend that. And then coming soon, we don't have this out yet, but literally in 2 weeks, there's going to be a monthly plan where they're going to be recommending weekly drills. And this is all, again, stuff that you're going to work on by yourself outside of practice just to keep fresh.
So when they submit a video, is that an edited video or an unedited video?
Totally unedited, just film like as if you were just going to film something for Instagram, but you don't have to edit. Just raw film footage, as long as we can see your whole body and the ball. That's all we need to see. So just, you don't need any equipment, right? Some of them are we try to pick very basic drills that you could do almost anywhere, but not too basic to where it doesn't actually show anything. So like, left foot, right foot, passing the ball off a wall and receiving it. Our coaches can see your technique, receiving the ball, your first touch, how you transition from foot to foot. There's a lot of very easy drills based off of that they're going to look for.
So these are
distance of what our feet should look like. And you can see how different that is compared to what yours are right here. So that's a big thing that'll help you. The wider we get our feet, the more athletic we become, and the easier it is to. So notice how upright you are. Your body's about here, okay? And we want our body to be more in a line where our shoulders and everything is leading us more and at more of an angle. Now,
I love the fact that it comes with the paintbrush that you
totally
can paint tools.
It's visual.
Like great,
it's visual.
Great addition, right, Marcus?
Yeah, it's really, really good.
We appreciate that. And by the way, that was Nicole Barnhart, 2-time Olympic gold medalist. Like, if someone knows how to be a goalkeeper and communicate it, it's someone like that. And she is just, I've been so fortunate with the coaches that we're able to work with right now. We're very fortunate that people believe in the vision, believe in the value of something like this. And that's allowed us to really bring in some world-class coaches. And we'll continue to add, to our coaching team, but being very, very selective with who we let on the platform to be a coach.
Dion, listen, I could talk all night.
I think we all could.
It's well over an hour right now, and maybe we'll have you back on another show. But listen, Blayze.BLAYZE.io. It's a great, and I endorse very few products. You know that. I mean, Soccer Coach TV brand for me is all about, honesty and integrity and street credentials. And if you're watching this show live or watching it archived, listen, take a look at Blayze. I think it's a great product for your players. Let them have a look at it. Let them decide on their own. You've just got an amazing story, Dion, and I'm very happy that we cross paths. I know we're going to be friends long after this. And Marcus, thank you with a great show tonight. Listen,
no, thanks, Greg. Dion, it was great meeting you, by the way. Best of luck.
My ESPN, the phone's been ringing off the hook, but I'll take it tomorrow morning after my coffee, But we'll see. It's ESPN. Check us out. So before we leave, normally we would put our outro video to music, etc. And at this point, Blayze, I just want to reflect a little bit about one of my former players had passed away a week ago Friday. 56-year-old Des McAleenan was a teammate of Marcus's, playing Division I soccer. I was his coach. Great kid, absolutely kid. He's one of these kids who, brightens up the room wherever he goes. He's just full of life. He was a Renaissance man. He loved music. He loved football. He loved nature. He loved going on walks. He became an international top-class goalkeeper coach. He had worked with the best goalkeepers in America in the MLS. He had been to Saudi Arabia and did very well out there. More recently was in Colombia with the World Cup team in Colombia. And Ireland too, in Glentoran. I think they just won the Cup of the Championship. And Marcus, you'll remember him. Just larger than life guy.
Larger than life, and nobody outworked him. What a work ethic.
It was devastating news when we got it. It broke my heart, and for his family, for his friends, for his coaches out there at the professional clubs, for his players, young goalkeepers that he mentored, and he disguised soccer. He disguised coaching life as soccer, as one person put it. He wasn't teaching soccer when he taught people. He was teaching life. And I thought that was a great quote that I read on Facebook. I put together a short video with some photographs as kind of a tribute to Desi, and we're going to end with that today, Marcus. And it was heartbreaking going through that process of making it and reliving those moments and seeing him. But he'll never be forgotten. He's one of those people who, when he walked into the room, you knew you were a better person. And I could name off thousands of people that loved him so much. And there's people, if they're watching the show right now, and, Marcus, I can't even begin to name names because people would be offended. Everybody was his friend, and it was our loss. And it was just incredibly hard to see this happen to Desi. So Desi, my friend, find your peace. Dion, thank you. Marcus,
thank you guys.
Thanks, Creator. Dion, it's great meeting you.
You too, man.
Okay, fine, I said hi, but I did not say goodbye. What do you want? That's my style. Don't be mad, I'll be sad. I get drunk so quick it's bad. I'm flattered you missed me, but thanks for the whiskey. They call them Irish goodbyes. There's no taking time, no standing in line. We just head to the back and we fly. And when they realize it's late in the night, they're asking, why did he leave? What do you want? That's my style. Why don't you stay for a while? There's nothing so sexy as a man who disappears after eating his fill and drinking lots of beer. He shows up like the wind in the middle of the night, and everybody's happy, but when it does not start a fight, they call them Irish goodbyes. There's no ticking time, no standing in line. We just head to the back and we fly. And when they realize it's late in the night, they're asking, why did he leave? What do you want? That's my style. Why don't you stay for a while? What goes through your mind when you leave with no goodbyes? So many random people that I don't even like. There's Tommy, there's Taryn, a wink and I'll give a nudge. They're different of my since youth, they will not hold a grudge. No. They call them Irish goodbyes. There's no taking time, no standing in line. We just head to the back and we fly.